Now let's go our data source class because we need to make a query now. And our data source class, the abstract class, will have a method, and the method is the last method. Just look at the last method that returns a list of bus reservation, and we want the reservation list of reservation based on the schedule ID. That means the schedule that user previously selected. So each schedule has a schedule ID, and we also need to pass the departure date. And this method implementation is inside the dummy data source class. So the dummy data source class, inside the dummy data source class, we have this method implementation, and that will be this one. So get reservations by schedule and departure date. So now we have to make a query, and we need to access this temp.db file here inside this table reservation. And we actually don't have any reservations yet because we performed a lot of queries, but still we didn't perform any insert operations. So eventually, when after we finished our query, this table will return nothing, or we will have no reservation at all. But don't worry, our query will still work. So inside the dummy data source class, I am writing few lines, and that will be, I will return a list of bus reservation just like this. So return temp.db dot table reservation dot where. So we have the schedule ID and we have this departure date, so we need to match both of them. So this element is the reservation object, and then at the last we need to convert it to a list, and now we have to check the condition. So we need to check whether element dot bus schedule dot schedule ID, if it matches to the ID we have taken here, so schedule ID, and also we need to match whether this element dot departure date, if it matches the departure date. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to mark this function as asynchronous. Now we have to call this function from the app data provider class. So let's go to the app data provider class and create a function that will actually return a list of reservations. So let me just copy the actual method signature from here, because the provider method will also have the same signature. So inside the app data provider class, I'm just pasting the method signature from here, and I'm giving a body, and now I will just return data source dot get schedules, get reservations by schedule and departure date. So now we have to call this method from inside the sit plan page class. So let's go to the sit plan page, and because this is a stateful widget, so the suitable place for calling that function will be a did change dependencies function that we already have overridden. And after we extract the arguments, now it's time to call that function. So I'm creating a new function called get data, and the function declaration should be here. So get data, and this function will be asynchronous. And now we need a provider object, and we will use the provider.op function, and of course we need to pass listen false because we just want that object to call some method inside the provider class. So now I'm calling await provider dot of context listen false. I need to specify the provider class here, so app data provider, and now I have to call the function, and the name of the function is get reservations by schedule and departure date. And here I need to pass the schedule ID, and we already have the schedule object, so the ID should be schedule dot schedule ID, and the departure date will be this one. So this is initially nullable, but this method requires an integer not nullable, so I am just putting a not null assertion here. And this function will return a list of reservation, and let's just store this list of reservation in a variable like final reservation or reservation list equals this. So this list may be empty or not, but whether it is, we need to check some things, because from this list we need to extract if there is any reservations, we need to extract the seat numbers. And if you go to the model class, I mean reservation model class, so bus reservation, so inside this bus reservation you will see a few variables like seat numbers. So this is the string that will consist of all the seat numbers by comma separated. And we also have the total seat booked. We also have the departure date also, and some other stuff. But the main things that we need right now is the seat numbers and total seat booked. So now that we have a reservation list, the next thing we need to do is we need to extract the seat numbers, and the seat numbers will get as a string, and we need to convert that string into a list once again. So I am taking a temporary list like list of string and seats that will be initially empty, and now we need to go through this list by a for loop. So for final reservation object in reservation list, and we need to increase the value of total seat booked. This variable initially was 0, but we need to extract the total seat from here, the total seat booked, and we need to increase that variable because there might be several reservations here. So we need all the seat numbers or total seat numbers as well as the total seats, and we need to increase that variable as well. So now total seat booked, that will be equals plus equals the reservation dot total seat booked. And also we need to do one thing, that is this seats this seats array. So we have a string and we need to split that string and take every seat number inserted in this list. So seats dot add, we will have reservation dot seat numbers. So this is actually a string, so we are actually adding a string inside this seat list. So we need to actually once again split this thing. I'm just currently putting the seat numbers as a string in this list, and in a moment we will retrieve or split all the strings and convert it to a list. Maybe not here, but inside the seat plan view page or widget. And now we have our, after completing this loop, we will have our seats list with some strings that will contain the seat numbers. And after this loop, we will modify another variable, that is booked seat numbers. So this will be booked seat numbers will be, now I will join every element inside this list with a delimiter comma. So now we have done, I think we have done everything we want to achieve the final view of this seat plan view. Now it's time, I think we have one more thing left to do, but I just want to make a full restart right now, and let's just see whether it will work or not. But remember, our 10 dB reservation list consists nothing. So actually we will have this reservation list empty and nothing will happen, no seat numbers, no seat levels, so this will remain empty. So let me select the cities, and now as you can see there is no change, but there is no error also. That means this query has been made and we actually got an empty list, and that's why we are not seeing any change. And one more thing I need to do is, if there is any booked set, if this list not empty, then we should mark these seat numbers as red. And I think we have done that already, but one thing we need to do is a marked or a reserved or a booked seat cannot be clicked. So let's go to the seat plan view and let's go to the seat class, and this function inkwell, this on tap function is called every time users select a seat, but a booked seat cannot be clicked. So we need to pass either a function for this on tap argument or we can pass a null. So as you can see, this on tap function takes a function or a null value. And now we need just one more thing. We will check whether this is booked property is true or false. So if this widget dot is booked, if it is true, then we will pass a null for on tap, and if it is not booked, then we will pass a function. And now I think everything is done, but whether it is working or not, for that we need to wait and we need to actually save some reservations in this 10 dB and then make the same search with the same cities, and we'll select the same schedule on the same departure date, and then we will see that there are some seats that are already booked in the previous step will be colored as red and user cannot select those seats. So it's now time to go to the next page, because if user selects whatever seats they want to select, and the next step will be to click this next function or next button, sorry, and by pressing that next button we will redirect, or we will take our user to a next page that will be a booking confirmation page, and we will take some values with us like the seat numbers, the schedule object, the departure date, everything we have carried from the search page so far. We will carry these as well, and also some new variables to the seat booking confirmation page. So I'm going to take a new page. I'm going to take a new page inside the pages folder that will be a Dart file, and it will be booking confirmation page, and that will be also a stateful widget. So this will be booking confirmation page, and we need to add this page in the main function route object. So I'm just making a duplicate, and the route name will be route name booking confirmation page, and we have to return the booking confirmation page as well. And we need to find this next button now, and the next button will be inside this seat plan page. If I scroll down a little bit, then I will find this next button. So inside this next button, I will go to the next page, that means the booking confirmation page, and I will take a list, and inside that list we will have some parameters. But we have to check one thing, because user will press this next button eventually, but if user forgets to select any of the sites, so if this variable at the top of this seat plan page, if this selected seats, we will actually check this list whether it is empty or not. If it is empty, that means user has not selected any seat, so we will prevent user to go to the next page, and we will show a snack bar message. So in the next button, we will check whether this selected seats is empty or not. So selected seats is empty. If selected seats is empty, we're going to show user a message. So the message, show message, why it's not important. So show message will be please select your seat first, and then we will return from this method. And if this condition is false, that means user have selected at least one seat, then we will go to the next page, and that will be navigator dot push named, and the context and the route name will be route name booking confirmation page, and we'll have an argument of list. So I want to have this argument in the next line so that it's clearly visible, and we need to pass few arguments. We need to pass the departure date. So at the 0 index, we are passing the departure date. At the number 1 index, we will have the schedule object, and we will also take the seat strings. That means this notifier value, this notifier's actual value we'll need, because this value will be like this string. So we need to have this string in our next page also. So we need to pass these seat numbers also. So to get that, we need to call the selected seat string notifier dot value, that will return the actual value. And I think we need to pass one more thing, the length of the selected seats. That means how many seats are selected, because in the reservation, in the bus reservation model, we need also a variable like total seat booked. So that means how many seats the user have booked, and it is just the length of these selected seats. So we need to pass the selected seats dot length. So I think that's enough. We are taking actually 4 variables with us to the next page, and see you in the next lecture. We'll be building our last phase of reservation. That means the booking confirmation page.